Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for Thursday, March 27th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. In terms of MLB DFS, since it is the first video for the year, this is how I do structure it. I have one pitcher, four hitters. It's going to be based on a combination of past performance versus their respective opponent. Typically, it's also based on some recent history as well. Obviously, with it being the first real game of the season outside of the Japanese series, which the Dodgers and Cubs played in, but that's only two teams, that we don't have quite as much recent history for these guys outside of what they did in spring training. So that's going to be a little bit more limited, but that's kind of how I do approach it just in general. Obviously, these are players that I do like based on that. You definitely don't have to play all five of them together. Obviously, stacks do play a very important role for MLB DFS. And then last but not least, for MLB DFS, I only do it for FanDuel. If you have any questions related to DraftKings, you can feel free to leave them down in the comment section as well, and I'll try to answer them as best as possible. And then in the morning, I'll be posting any weather updates, and then I will have as many of the starting lineups as I can get to throughout the day down in that comment section as well. Any other potential updates to the core, if there's going to be any. I really don't expect any for opening day, though. So we're going to start off at the pitcher position. Obviously, day one, opening day, pretty much every team is throwing their ace, so there's going to be a lot of great options out there, so feel free to mix and match. I do also have my MLB DFS notes up on my Patreon page. That will break down each pitcher, whether or not I consider them in play, a risky play, or an avoid. And that's just kind of based on their respective history versus their opponent. And then I'll do also notable hitters as well as some other potential stacks, which I'll be talking about a little bit after I go through the core picks. But with all that being said, the pitcher that I do have for my core pitcher is going to be Hunter Greene. He is $9,700. He has some pretty good history, but it's kind of limited versus the San Francisco Giants. This game is in Cincinnati, which typically games in Coors Field and Cincinnati, they are two of the more hitter-friendly ballparks in all baseball. So sometimes you like to avoid those, but at least early in the season, in Cincinnati, the weather's going to be a little bit colder. I'm not quite as worried about that. He did pitch once versus the San Francisco Giants last season. He had 61 points versus them. Obviously, first start of the season, I don't expect him to have 61 points once again. Obviously, a lot of these guys are going to be on a potential pitch count, a potential innings count. But for FanDuel, we're looking for guys that can get us a quality start and a win. And with all that being said, Hunter Greene had a little bit of a hit or miss spring training. The fastball velocity was up. I know it was either his last start or his second to last start. He was really good, though. So I definitely do like his upside in this matchup. The Giants lineup, not terrible offensively, but I think there is potential for them to kind of struggle, at least early on in the season, especially as they do kind of figure out which bats they want in and out of the lineup on a given day. But definitely do like the upside of Hunter Greene just in general. And then we're going to move down to catcher / first base with our catcher, Adley Rutschman. He is $3,000. Last year, he averaged 9 fantasy points per game. Goes against the Toronto Blue Jays. Jose Berrios is the expected starting pitcher for them. 13 for 22 with 3 home runs versus Jose Berrios in his career. That is some of the best hitter versus pitcher stats on the entire day. He had a .357 batting average with 3 home runs in spring training, so I definitely do like the upside of Adley Rutschman in this matchup overall. And then we're going to move down to second base with Alex Bregman. You could also play him at third base for the Boston Red Sox, $3,300. Last season, he averaged 10 fantasy points per game. He is 4 for 15 with 1 home run versus Nathan Eovaldi in his career, who is the expected starting pitcher for the Texas Rangers. He is coming off a pretty good spring training, kind of cooled off a little bit later on, though, so he ended up with a .279 batting average, 3 home runs. So I definitely do like the upside of Alex Bregman, and he's a guy that has traditionally done pretty well in the early weeks of the season, just in general. Obviously, a lot of seasons he kind of starts out pretty hot, cools down for a little while, and then he gets hot once again. And I definitely do like his potential and the ability to play him at multiple positions. Then we're going to move down to 2 outfielders that I do think are really good values. I got Trevor Larnach of the Minnesota Twins here at $2,800. Averaged just under 9 fantasy points per game last season. Goes against the St. Louis Cardinals. Sonny Gray on the mound. He's been dealing with a little bit of illness at the same time as well. So maybe he's not quite as effective as he would normally be. But Trevor Larnach is 2 for 3 with 2 home runs versus him in his career. He is coming off his spring training where he hit .306 with 2 home runs. So pretty solid numbers there as well. Definitely do like his upside. I think there is some interesting stackability with his Twins team overall, especially him and Matt Wallner. Matt Wallner almost made this list, but he's a couple $100 more. Had the power in spring training, but also struck out a ton at the same time as well. And then last but not least, we got Victor Scott at $2,000. Unfortunately, last season he averaged under 5 fantasy points per game. Kind of a rough rookie season for him, in and out of the lineup at times. Obviously, a guy that does have pretty good speed. Shown a little bit of pop this spring training where he hit 4 home runs with a .349 batting average as well as 5 stolen bases. He goes against Pablo Lopez of the Minnesota Twins. He's 1-for-1 versus Pablo Lopez in his career, and Pablo Lopez is coming off a pretty rough spring training at the same time as well. So with that being said, these are the core picks that I do have for this slate overall. If you go with these 5 players, you would have $14,200 remaining, just over $3,500 remaining per player. So that is a pretty good amount of money remaining, as there are some pretty good values on this slate overall. Another guy that I would mention that did get added later on in the slate is going to be Alan Rodin of the Toronto Blue Jays. He's $2,200 outfielder, projected to start for the Blue Jays, coming off really good spring training. I think there's a lot of value, at least early on, for this slate. Obviously, it's a very large slate with it being opening day, so feel free to mix and match as you do see fit. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about the top GPP teams to stack for this slate overall. So these are the 4 that I do have in general. Once again, I did mention my MLB DFS notes over on my Patreon page. There's a couple more on there as well, but these are the top 4 that I do have for this slate overall. So I have the Baltimore Orioles going against Jose Berrios. Obviously, we talked about Adley Rutschman. He has really good history versus Jose Berrios. Cedric Mullins does as well, but he's coming off a rough spring training. A lot of good, talented players in this Baltimore Orioles lineup, so I definitely do like the upside that they could have versus Berrios, especially if Berrios is not on top of that curveball early on in the season. Then we have the Philadelphia Phillies going against Mackenzie Gore. I think Mackenzie Gore is a relatively good pitcher, but the Phillies have hit him pretty well in the past, whether that has been Bryce Harper, Alec Boehm, Trey Turner, and Muno Sosa's got decent history versus him, but he's probably not going to be in the starting lineup, so a couple different options there. And then Nick Castellanos, who's coming off a rough spring training, has hit him pretty well in the past. And then we move over to Toronto Blue Jays going against Zach Eflin of the Baltimore Orioles. Eflin, he's kind of been hit or miss throughout his career. Obviously, he does have decent upside on any given start, but the Blue Jays have hit him pretty well in the past. And then last but not least, I have the New York Mets going against Framber Valdez. Not a lot of history there, but the Mets do have his number for what it's worth. So those are the top 4 teams that I do have to stack. Once again, feel free to mix and match as you do see fit, whether that's with that pitcher position, whether it's with some of the core picks, whether it's with some of the top stacks. It's going to be a very interesting slate for opening day. Obviously, a lot of games out there, a lot of really good pitchers pitching with pretty much every team throwing out their ace on opening day. But with that being said, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comment section of this video. Once again, in the morning, I will be posting up a weather report that's just going to have any game that does have a double-digit chance of rain or higher. And then if there's any updates to the core whatsoever, I'll leave them as a pinned comment down below. I'll be listing as many of these starting lamps as I can get to throughout the day as well. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we're transitioning over to MLB DFS, so I will be doing the core pick video probably Monday through Friday. Might throw in a Saturday here or there, might cut off a Monday here or there, but typically Monday through Friday. I will have UFL DFS coming out once a week as well. I will be posting that video later tonight, but typically I think I will be posting that video on Tuesdays. So definitely I'll look out for that if that's something you're interested in as well, or if you want to check out for the very first time. And then once again, I will be doing some NFL draft content here and there as we do lead up to the NFL draft. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you are a brand new user to any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you'll get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS for Thursday, March 27th.